Hi everyone, welcome to See the Ramadan Stories, the signature segment of the 3-hour news show. Now, today we will discuss about the guidelines for children who want to fast during Ramadan. But before we delve into that topic, I would like to ask my co-host right here, at what age do you start teaching your children to fast? Because I know right now your youngest, Brady,
Right.
he's been doing so well, right?
Yes,
During
yes.
this Ramadan.
But that's actually a funny story because we actually never asked him to fast.
Never
He
asked him?
No. Just a few days before the start of Ramadan, he's asking, Dad, I think we're fasting soon, right? I said, yeah, why? I think I want to do it. Okay, you want to wake up for the sahur and everything else? Because last year he was doing it without the sahur, not doing it, but he was fasting at school until about 11 a.m.
Yep.
But as soon as he came home, he would just eat. That's it.
So you didn't do it gradually.
No.
You just did it.
Yeah,
this
because
time.
he said, can I do it? I said, yeah, well, let's try it. So far, he's been great. You know, he's been waking up at 4
Amazing.
and everything, and kept the fast until about 6:09, 6:08 right now. So he's doing okay. I don't know if it's gonna be like this for the whole entire month. We'll see.
I think so, because once he's got the hang of it, I mean, he's been doing this
You're
for
right.
a week, right?
It's a week now. You're right. We're
He's on
surprised.
it.
Yes, very much so. So guys, now fasting is an obligation that every Muslim must perform during Ramadan. Parents with children must therefore teach them how to fast at the right age so they can fulfill their obligations when they grow up.
Yes, it is interesting to know that teaching fasting to children from a young age has many benefits.
Teaching children to fast at the right age can help them control their weight and thus avoid obesity. Fasting can also teach them self-control and patience, as they must abstain from eating and drinking and manage their emotions for roughly 12 hours. Now, to delve deeper into the benefits of fasting for children, we are now joined by pediatrician Dr. Nitish Adnani. Hey, Doc.
Let's
please
invite
join
you.
us.
Join us. Hi,
to have
Doc.
you here.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the studio.
I have a lot of questions for you.
Ah,
because
big
my
time.
son, you too, right? My son is just starting to learn how to fast this year, and he was a premature baby,
Okay.
and up until now, it's just like a consultation. I'm so sorry, but just to give you a context, he's a premature baby, and up until now, it is so hard to catch up the weight.
Okay.
So yeah, I got a lot of questions in my mind right now. But let's start with the ideal age to
Alright,
start fasting. Please.
All right. Well, actually, there's no definitive guideline as to when is the perfect age to start fasting, but we generally recommend to begin at about the age that children start to experience puberty as well. So around 8 to 9 years old for the complete fasting period. But of course, we encourage them to start a couple of years before that with a shorter duration first.
Right. So 8 to 9.
8 to 9, I know, that's way early for my son. He's now only 6.5, 6 3/4.
Yeah.
But then again, in my defense, me and my wife,
Yep.
we never actually asked or forced him to fast. He just wanted to do it. He's doing it now. And again, like I said earlier with Teresia, we'll see how long this lasts.
Perfect.
What about his weight this
He's act-
past week?
Yeah, well,
Did you weigh him?
I haven't actually done it, but I think that is something that I have to do. So, Doc, considering about weight now, is there, what's the easiest method to kind of compare between height and weight? And then, because I think there's for us adults, there's BMI, BMR, I don't know what it is, if there is any for kids, just to make sure they are actually in a good state.
All right. So in general, we use their body weight for height as a measurement of their nutritional status.
Right.
To determine whether or not they're having normal nutrition, being underweight or like severely underweight. And as opposed to that, to determine whether or not they're overweight or obese, we also use the BMI.
Oh, so we still use that for kids too. Okay, that's good to know.
So is it better to consult first with a pediatrician before teaching our children to fast, or can we just do it while monitoring their weight and height?
All right. Well, if they're of a certain age already and we determine that they're ready enough to begin fasting, we can encourage them to start with a shorter duration first. So perhaps not the entire fasting period. We can encourage them to start from half a day first and see how they go with that, whether they're experiencing any symptoms of hypoglycemia or low blood sugar levels, or if they're experiencing dehydration or low fluid intake. And if they're not, then we can gradually increase the duration to the entire fasting period.
Well, what about the weight? Because I've been monitoring my son's weight because, as I've mentioned earlier, he's a premature baby and we struggle with weight gain. And he tried fasting for a week up until now, but only half a day.
I see.
So he lost weight.
I see. And how old is he now? If I may?
7 years
Okay.
old. So is this a sign that I should stop him,
Oh, definitely.
or just continue the process?
I would say to continue the process if he has no other symptoms besides that.
Such as what? The other symptoms?
If he has no symptoms of dehydration, no symptoms of loss of fluid, so if his urination is still normally frequent, and if he has no like dry lips, sunken eyes, so that means he's not dehydrated, and if he doesn't feel any weakness during the fasting period, then you can proceed.
Okay, so losing weight during fasting is normal.
It is to a certain extent normal. If it's excessive, then we would have to evaluate what we should try to find out what the cause is actually.
Okay, what's the number for excessive?
Okay.
Like how many % of his body weight?
So there's no exact limit as to how much weight we lose during the fasting period. So if he loses just a little bit of weight, but he's still normal in the growth chart for his age, that would still be within the normal range. So it's very important to monitor their weight and height trend from birth, of course, and as they grow, we should see whether or not they're following the chart or not.
Okay.
Noted. Now, Doc, you were talking about symptoms. Now, we want to ask you about medical conditions if one child maybe has any. What do we need to pay attention to if you have certain medical conditions that you can or you're actually allowed to do fasting?
Okay, so for children with certain chronic diseases, for example, those with diabetes type 1, of course, it's very good to consult with their pediatric endocrinologist first before beginning to fast. Also with children with other various diseases, children with malnutrition, children with certain malignancies, and children who are currently treated for illnesses in the hospital, those are not recommended to undergo the fasting. But otherwise, healthy children, when they reach the certain age that we discussed earlier, we would recommend them to start gradually fasting as well.
All right. Okay.
Oh, okay. Now, what are the signs that a child isn't ready for fasting? Can you name a few?
Okay, so firstly, if they do try to fast, and then if they have symptoms of dehydration, so if they appear to have dry lips, appear to have sunken eyes, appear weak during the fasting period, that could indicate that they're not ready yet. The second issue that you usually find if they're not ready is that they will have hypoglycemia, or in other words, low blood glucose levels.
How do you determine that? By testing it?
Yes, or usually you can see the signs if they're starting to appear weaker than usual or not as active as they are before. And you can confirm that by the blood glucose level measurement, of course, although it's not entirely necessary.
See, again, you cannot really determine an appropriate or ideal age of, and that explains why Brady is ready, although he's only 6.
Definitely. It does vary from child to child, usually.
Right. So, well, take my son for example. Right, he's been doing it for a week now. It doesn't look like he's got any complaints, or we don't see anything that's concerning. But if there should be a sign, what kind of that we need to look forward, that we need to pay attention to. Let's say now he's been doing it for 7 days, 8 days now. But as soon as we see something, then maybe we tell him, okay, you probably don't have to fast today.
Okay, so if he's already doing it, and that's the entire duration from morning to evening, is it?
Right.
Okay, so if he's already doing it and he has no complaints, then I think it's good for us to proceed with it, especially if he has no signs of like dehydration and low blood glucose level, as we mentioned before. Then it's good enough for him, and probably his metabolism is already adequate enough to compensate for the fasting period. So it's okay for him to proceed.
So, okay.
And I think he's doing really well so far.
I know.
But doc, are there any specific medical condition that prohibits the child from fasting?
Yeah.
Like you've mentioned earlier, diabetes can still fast, but you have to monitor the blood sugar level.
So for children with diabetes, they should discuss with their
the doctor.
endocrinologist whether their diabetes is in control or not to determine whether or not they can fast.
Okay, apart from diabetes, are there anything else? Any
so
disease?
Children with chronic diseases, just those with kidney conditions, those with malnutrition, those with malignancies, those are some of the conditions that we would probably encourage them not to fast first. And also children who are currently being treated for acute illnesses. So if they're currently being treated in the hospital for a certain disease, at that point, we would actually advise them not to fast first until they recover.
Right.
You mentioned earlier about the growth chart, right?
Yes.
What if they are not in the right percentile? Like below the standard, let's say. It's the easy word for us who are not doctors. So we don't let them.
If they're classified, if they're below the standard, so they're classified as having malnutrition. So for those with malnutrition, we would recommend for them to get into the normal nutrition status first, and then they can proceed to fast.
Oh, okay. I need to look at that.
Me too. I think I'm going to show you later after the show.
Sure, absolutely.
So, Doc, what are maybe now we want to talk about benefits of children who fast? What are the impacts of the development or maybe the health of the child when they do fast?
Okay, so actually fasting has various benefits both for children and also for adults. The first one is that it helps to increase the insulin sensitivity. So insulin is a hormone that helps regulate the blood glucose level in our body.
Okay.
So when we fast, actually the last meal that we consume, that can help to maintain our blood glucose level for about 4 hours. Okay. And after that, the glucose storage in our liver will be broken down to help maintain the level to be still normal so that we can still continue with our day-to-day activities. But about 16 hours from our last meal, usually the body will automatically break down fat as well as protein and make that into glucose, and then that will help to maintain our blood glucose levels. So fasting during the period of about 12 to 14 hours is quite good for metabolism.
Okay.
It's also good for the immune system of the child as well. And it has a lot of health benefits. So I would advise for children who are entering the puberty age of 8 to 9 years old to start fasting for the entire day.
It is always interesting to know more about fasting from a medical point of view,
Yes,
right?
right, right.
Science point of
The
view, not
science.
just from religion. But Doc, I've heard stories from my friends who have little kids learning how to fast, and they told me, after trying fasting for a week, they got sick, you know, or after having sahur, they threw up, things like that, you know. How, as parents, how do we handle that?
Okay.
What does that condition tell us?
Okay, so firstly, we have to determine whether or not that condition is related to the fasting, or maybe they just acquired something like a new infection that caused them to have vomiting or caused them to have certain illnesses like fever.
Yeah.
So first, we need to determine whether or not it's related to the fasting, and then if that has been mitigated, if they're in a healthy condition, so if we already treat that, then we can encourage them to start again.
There's no big deal. Sometimes we overthink, you know,
Sometimes we
as
do,
parents,
as
because we love our child too much, right?
Yes, we're just trying to come up with 20,000 solutions after one thing that happens to our kid. Now, Doc, speaking of fasting and children, what about children that have special needs, let's say Down syndrome or something else that's similar to that? Is there anything that parents can do to kind of, maybe if they want to help their kids to fast, maybe the kids are a little older in the puberty age, but they need special needs like that?
Okay.
Is there something that we can do as parents?
So for children with Down syndrome in particular, I would use that as an example.
Okay.
There's no certain restrictions for them not to fast. So they can still proceed to fast if they're of the right age and if they're have no other pre-existing conditions that cause them to be able to not fast. So they can still continue to fast. Of course, we would have to encourage them. We would have to see whether or not they're feeling anything during the period.
So I guess it's safe to say, as parents, we have to kind of just look at our kids. That maybe the first step is to look at them, and then you can determine whether they're actually ready to fast or
Yeah,
not, right?
so I would always suggest to start gradually. So if you start from half a day and they seem to be doing okay with it, then you can increase the fasting duration gradually. And if you do that, probably that will prevent the occurrence of like dehydration, hypoglycemia, like you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
If you are not confident enough in your observation skill, you can always visit the pediatrician, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And consult, of course. So we still have so many questions for our guest today, but we're going to have to take a little break. But don't worry, because See the Ramadan Stories will continue after that break. Stay with us.